Welcome back to Around the Mage Table. I think summer is almost here, and I say that because while we have a very jam-packed episode today, we are going to be taking the next 2 weeks off for episodes. So just wanted to quickly go around and talk about why we are doing that. So I'm going to be out of town because of a meeting. I know Tech's going to be out of town for vacation. Scrap's going to be out of town for a vacation. And Shawnee, you're opening up like, what, 16 companies now?
Yeah. 74 different companies.
I wanted actually to quickly give you a chance just to tell everyone what you're doing because I think it's really cool. You're opening up your own business. You are a tattoo artist by trade. And so tell us a little about it. Where are you opening up and is it 4,000 square feet?
No, it's not that large. Opening a new tattoo shop in Bedford, Nova Scotia in Canada with my friend Chad. And also my wife's going to be working there doing electrolysis. So we're getting that ready. Our grand opening's in August. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be super rad, not bad. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I've been watching your Instagram and everything, and it looks exciting. And August, I thought you'd be like, with the amount of work you're putting in, I thought you'd be opening up like tomorrow. But
well, we're open, but we're final touches.
The balloons will be up in August.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, if you're in the Bedford, Nova Scotia area, I would love it if you could get an Instagram post of you doing some World of Warcraft themed tattoos. That'd be awesome. Yep. Scrap, what are you going to be up to in the next 2 weeks?
Going on my honeymoon.
Oh, going to Barbados?
It's delayed, And then
Italy?
we're going to Japan.
Japan.
Yep.
To get those trinkets of Pikachu and what are you going to be? Any cool things that you're excited about?
Oh, I have a whole list. Yeah, I don't need to get into it.
Just the top thing. What's the top thing on the list? Are you going to Mount Fuji or anything?
Yeah, definitely going to Fuji. One of the top things on my list is there's a city called Fukui, which is the dinosaur capital of Japan, and there's a huge dinosaur museum there. Which I know you said that you would never go to a museum if you were overseas, but
no,
I'm going to a couple.
Well, I don't think I said never go. My thought process when I travel is like I want to experience the culture, and museums can be a part of the culture, of course.
Edit in a picture. I'm going to send you a picture.
I'll put a picture
of the museum, and you're going to be like, "Oh, that's sick."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a big dinosaur
paleontology
fan. It is a science museum. It's a paleontology natural history museum. So, yeah, I'm going to send you some pictures. You're going to edit them in so everyone can see that it's awesome.
I'm under the impression that Leo helped a little bit with planning this trip out. The world famous.
He definitely motivated me. and you technically helped me by telling me to buy tickets on Tuesday. So
I did, yeah. Which I keep getting conflicting "it's true or not" kind of statements, but it seemed to work out for
I've heard it's true. I mean, I bought a couple tickets, but I haven't checked back on them. Anyway, yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing all the cool things you get into. Technique, you're gone for what? 10 days? 15 days? 400 days?
Oh damn. That'd be great, man. No, we have a family vacation coming up. We're gonna hit the beach, a different beach than typical, and be gone for I think 10 days. Yeah, 10 days total.
Hey.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
It'll be our family, my wife's sister's family, and my in-law parents-in-law. It should be a great time. We're gonna go crabbing. We're gonna go deep sea fishing. We're gonna go to the beach.
I'm definitely envious because you, well, we won't get into it, but I'm just noticing right now, did you put the collector's editions of World of Warcraft up behind you? Because that obviously would be relevant.
It's actually not. Yes, that's where they are, but that's just because I don't have a better place to put them. There's more on the other side.
I thought you did it because you had a topic you wanted to shout about today, which we will get to later. And then I will be on a work trip next week. And then, of course, as we'll discuss later, beta. You don't have to take
it. Diablo one over there.
Oh, okay. And then we'll have beta, which will take up a lot of time, and we got a lot of good things we'll talk about later. But let's jump straight into it because we got a very busy day. We got class tuning this week. Scrap, seems like the survival buffs have hit you very close to home with your new 4-set and
hit
I guess
me not at all because it's still not good enough of a buff to switch.
Oh,
hilariously.
Okay, uninstall the game, everyone.
Yeah. No, I mean the consensus is that there's still no reason to switch unless you're like the top item level. It's not big enough of a buff. The only thing it's buffing is a single target ability. So,
well, Paladin's getting some healing, which I think they could use a little love on there with their spenders, their holy spenders. Sean, you feel good about those?
Yeah, I think they're decent. Can't complain. A buff's a buff.
Yep. And Shaman, look at that enhancement buffs.
Shaman got a big buff.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to jump on and play it, but I'm sure that I'll still be last, so it doesn't matter. And then Technique, you were commenting on the fear cost of going down. Big deal, yeah, right?
If you're a PvP warlock, probably. Otherwise, no.
Okay.
Nobody
Well,
cares.
not too many big changes. There were some changes to the bosses this week. Well, I say, what's his name? Bromox Totem is 10% less damage, which is good on a tyrannical week. I actually did an Oldemon earlier on Frankenberry. Went pretty well. And there was another one. Something in Eltheris. I don't know. Not very important. Not big changes. Nope. Season 4 is officially dead. I got my my tome of
We've been saying that for a month.
Well, I did Azure Vaults, I think it was 16 times last week, and like a 28 total over the course of the 4 weeks. Finally got my tome. My DPS is actually looking up on my Mage, which is making me happy, but
I will see.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a cat fight scheduled after this.
Yeah.
I'm the judge of that.
Yep. But we also had some cool Traveler's Log stuff come out this week. Has anyone gotten theirs already? I already got mine because of the...
Oh, I had like 2,500 coins saved up, and I spent pretty much all of it. Because I love this stuff. I love the bathing suits. I love the, I wish I could use that that squirt gun, but
you can if you were in raid last night. People had it. I got mine this morning because
people already have it. I don't normally only finish it at the end of the month, but like you can actually have that as a transmog if you're a BM hunter, and I wish I could use that.
Oh, really? Yeah, you just, I mean, it doesn't really, like, it's not, it'd be cool if you kind of like push people a little bit. I know that obviously could be broken if you push them all over the place, but yeah, it's just, it's fun. It's cool. I mean, it's definitely better reward than you usually see, but there were tons of, I don't have them up right now because I didn't plan accordingly, but tons of like inner tubes and.
Yeah, the theming this month is perfect. It literally made me clean out my wallet. So.
Unbelievable. All right, let's talk about some more serious news. So, we talked last time on, not this last episode because that was the Dungeon Draft episode, but the episode before that we talked about MoP Remix and the drama around farming, and we had heard that they tagged players whether they were frog farmers or not. Now, I heard those tags weren't 100% accurate, but since then, they released a series of quests. There's 3 of them total. You get one at 50, 60, and 70, if I remember correctly. That give you a total 40,000 bronze if you did not frog farm. You can get them on as many characters as you can reach to level 70, so that's kind of nice. And I thought, okay, well, that's like, at least something to say thank you for the people who didn't do it. But there was so much more drama surrounding this, and I didn't really think much of it until I heard, I want to say it was Taliesin on the Weekly Reset, talking about how there are so many people who got so many stats on their cloak. Yeah. And then since then, they've increased the cap of stat numbers to about, I want to say 10 million or something like that. And so we, yeah, so like, I mean, it was more of the stats. And I say all this because we did our first raid in Siege of Orgrimmar last Thursday, and it was stupid. Would you guys agree?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not as stupid as some of the other ones I've run this week, but yeah.
And when you say the other ones, like, were they more chaotic? What was it?
I mean, it was just, no, it was just too easy. Too simple.
Dude, I did a Jade Serpent Temple in 3 minutes flat, and I literally missed one of the bosses because the guy was just moving so fast in front of me.
Yeah.
Like, he literally killed every boss in like 3 hits. He was a priest, I think. There's some sort of like priest gimmick that you can do that turns out a ton of damage.
It's like a healing, a weird healing thing where like...
Yeah, it's some sort of exploit. But yeah, literally I was running behind this guy and I missed a boss because I didn't get there quick enough.
I guess the question, like, obviously I had a good time overall with Remix. I'm still leveling. I leveled a Druid to 70 and now I'm going to do my Demon Hunter to level 70. So at that regard, I'm happy for this experiment, let's call it. But I am severely disappointed. Now, granted, we could go in and like try to 4-man the raid and make it like an actual raid feeling. But that may not work out well because of scaling issues, which today I was running a 60, I was on my Druid and I was level like 68 and things were just like one-shotting me and I was a tank. It's like, what the hell's going on?
Well, I'll say it's hard. I mean, there's a saying that's like, people don't want to pay for stuff they can get for free.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel the same way as that, like when Technique and I we just plugged into a raid and the bosses were taking as long as like a raid boss would take. I was like, I'm over this. Cause like yesterday we did it and we were killing them in like 1 second. And I was like, I want to be carried through it. Like I don't want to sit and do a raiding experience.
What'd you put in the looking for raid like comment?
Big boys? What was it? Fat boys.
Fat boys.
Technique, right?
Only.
And that's just how you pull people in that just like carried you through it.
Yeah. So it's hard for me to want the
out,
slow. Yeah, it's hard for me to enjoy the slow raid experience when I know I could get it done in 5 seconds flat.
When you're like the hard part is just keeping up with the tank.
Running. Yeah. having the cooldowns.
You and I missed a boss because we got stuck behind when we did it. Like,
well, you guys missed it because you died and no one rezzed you.
We died and then we started to walk back and the boss was already dead before we even made it back over there.
I also forgot. Sorry, go on, Shani.
That raid was really dumb that we did.
Yeah.
And there were people just not waiting or being considerate or anything. And
yeah, because
it ruined my entire night.
We pugged really 3 or 4 people, and all of them were fat boys, and they just kept
I was hoping to have like a regular raid night where we might like die on a boss or something. I want it to be fun, and it wasn't fun.
The average kill took us 45 seconds. Like,
yeah.
And we weren't. None of us are frog farmers. We had 3 pugs in who were pretty stacked, but they weren't like mega stacked, and it was a pushover. It was an unbelievable pushover. So.
Yeah. So. Overall, I still think it's a great experience. I mean, like the way I look at it, I think they're going to learn a lot of lessons from this for the next iteration of it. But let's say if they weren't to change anything and just say like, you know what, guys, this is really just kind of like, a bonus level, and we're not going to have the time or energy, but just have at it. I'd still say it's fun.
It's fine. Yeah, I do plan on leveling another character before War Within, just because it's fast, it's fun. But I'm gonna do pretty much only solo content because all the all the multiplayer content is so busted.
Yeah.
You level fast is doing it solo anyway. So
yeah.
Well, according to the speedrunners out there, the fastest way to do it is just to queue for heroic dungeons nonstop. And if you really want to cheese it, you just get like a level 10 player to run with you, and they just never what do you call those, like trial? You can go up to level 20 on the trial accounts.
Yeah, I heard that method before. It's
and they just like blast through it.
Yeah, so. Those people who want to do that, I'm like, how do you not already have a ton of max level characters? Like, it seems like those people would already have max level characters, but I don't know.
Well, either way, like I said, it was a good experiment. I don't think it was as successful as Plunderstorm was, but at the same time, all of us played this, whereas not all of us played Plunderstorm. So,
until they come out with Plunderstorm 2, ain't nothing's gonna top it.
All right. Well, today is the day where beta went live. This is recorded on a Wednesday, so it went live at around 5:00 tonight. And we've got some cool trailers that came along with it. I'm sure you guys haven't watched it. That's more of something I do. But I got a chance to quickly jump on. The server's all over the place, so I really won't be able to test too many things. But I'm hoping we'll get to see some of the new dungeons in the Mythic level this weekend. I have a feeling that they'll kind of start like a air quotes season to let us try Mythic Plus and all that stuff, but not yet. But there's been a lot of news that came out with it today. One of the things that I was surprised, well, not really surprised because it happens honestly a little too much with the people who get Collector's Edition, is people who bought the physical Collector's Edition, like Technique, will not gain access to the beta. But
why?
There seems to be, because the idea is you don't get your key until you get the physical edition. And so since you don't have the key, it can't tell the client that you get the beta, right?
Okay.
And I feel like there's an easier way to solve this problem, but it seems like Technique that they told you that you can upgrade to the digital and then you'll get a balance credit onto your Blizzard account. Oh, Technique's gone.
No, sorry, I was fixing my sock.
Yes. So tell us a little about it. You went through it today.
Yeah. So after learning that was the case, went to the game masters, made a ticket, went through it, got a reply, all that, and looks like if you purchased the collector's edition, you're waiting on that to come to your house. You can also buy the digital Epic edition, which is what was supposed to be included with the collector's edition. and get your access to the beta. And then when you use your key from the box from your collector's edition, they will refund you the value that you paid for your Epic edition as Blizzard coin or cash.
I feel like there's got to be an easier way to do that. Like, can't they just see who bought it and then give them a key? Like,
I can
send them?
understand, like, well, first of all, from a customer service perspective, you got to realize that beta access has no value. Like, it's not like you're giving them something that costs you money. It's literally costing you more money to not give it to me because I'm going to bitch about it more and talk to more people.
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
so from that perspective, like, just press the button. But
Yeah.
if that's not as easy for whatever reason, they should just take into consideration that the collector's edition costs 3 times what the Epic edition does. Like, just give me the damn button, man. Doesn't matter what I plan to do with the collector's edition. Maybe I'm selling it. Maybe I'm hoarding it and keeping it, never plan to open it. Maybe it's a gift. It doesn't matter. Give me the beta. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
From a customer service.
I don't think anyone's contesting that they want to give you the beta. I think it's more of just like logistically they are, I think, taking a lazier route of this because, you know, there's been a lot of talk about Blizzard laying off the customer service side of their business and the quality assurance side of their businesses, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, it seems like they just don't want to deal with the headache of everyone putting in tickets to say, hey, here's my receipt. Can I have beta? Because they could just individually send out the invite.
Yeah. But don't you think it's going to create more of a headache down the line where they have to refund a bunch of people? Like, you have to send in a ticket to do that, right?
Well, yeah, but I'm wondering if they have some sort of like automated process to see, you know, because now it'll be tagged in your account as opposed to them having to individually like look at a receipt and say, yep, that's a receipt.
How about they just tag the account right now?
Well, okay, so okay, let's say the 4 of us all get in line and say, hey, we have the collector's edition. And we all show the same screenshot that Technique used to buy his collector's edition. What's to stop all 4 of us from getting that credit, right?
Shouldn't they be able
Whoever
to...
does it first.
Well, shouldn't there be like a code with his receipt?
There isn't that I mean, technically you can tell me if
they should be able to use the order number and utilize that as some sort of authenticator to say, okay, well, this order number's already been consumed. Boom.
Yeah, but again, like, so then there's like a manual process of, okay, like I got to type this
fucking spreadsheet, bro. It's not that.
Not to be paranoid, but this seems kind of... Yeah, I was gonna say that I wonder if there's like a greed aspect to this too, because it's like, yeah, you have to buy this extra thing, which is not cheap, is it? The digital deluxe.
No.
It's what, $90?
$90?
Let's just say it's $60.
We'll refund you account credit. You don't even get the money back. You have to spend it back at their store.
It's exactly, and again, it's not about the money. Like, ultimately, it doesn't matter. But at the same time, it's
I think for them it might be.
You're just telling me, give me the money. That's all you're saying. It's not a solution. You're saying, give me the money, and I'll give it back to you as like my money that you can give to me later.
It's
how does that sound? Let me fix it that way. Like,
if it's just them being lazy, it unfortunately comes off as them being greedy. So the optics are not there.
Greedy is part of this equation to begin with, because the whole argument of getting beta access and the 3-day early access with your collector or the special editions was this is the first time that WoW is allowing that kind of thing, and so we already are in this place because of their greed. Which, you know, in fairness, and again, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little here. I'm not necessarily saying I'm agreeing with it, but, you know, this is an industry standard kind of thing nowadays to get early access and or beta or 3-day, you know, weekend kind of thing. They did it with Diablo.
Yeah.
So it's not, and again,
that doesn't make it an industry standard just because the same people did it with a different game.
No. But okay,
Madden
does it.
They did it with Call of Duty. Wait.
Everyone does it, right? Assholes. Madden does it, and NBA 2K does it. Like, they all do it, right? So it's not that surprising, is what I'm saying. It is an industry standard, but what I'm saying though is that their greed obviously comes into play now, because this has never had to been a problem before, because you weren't guaranteed anything anyways. Or at least if you were, it was like cosmetic only, and it's like, you just wait, you'll get it kind of thing. So now I'm wondering if this is going to be such a blowback that they'll have to figure out something and just further look like they have egg on their face.
It's not classy, is what it is.
Oh, of course not. Of course not.
You know,
no, it's outright stupid. It's just,
the optics are terrible on it, and it costs them nothing to give people beta. It costs them $0 to give people beta.
Even if they gave out extra betas as a result of making mistakes.
Yeah. Oh no, you accidentally give out extra betas because of a couple people taking advantage of it. It's like, what the fuck? Like, it's so greedy. It comes off so greedy.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah. I can't
To
argue.
me, I absolutely hate hearing people say no just because it's not easy to say yes. You know, like when a company or a customer service, like, okay, example, real life example. Okay, when my kid was young, I went to a what the damn shit, man, like a Japanese steakhouse.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hibachi.
you go
I
there.
don't know where the story's going.
All right, you go to a
His
Japanese
dad
steakhouse.
took the door off. He did plug the outlet.
No, you're sitting in a crowd of people at the grill station, whatever the hell they call it. I can't hibachi, okay?
Yeah, hibachi.
And my daughter doesn't eat
Teppanyaki.
any of that stuff because she's like 3.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked the person, "Hey, do you mind like making some eggs? Like you have eggs and you have a pan or a fucking place to cook it. Like
yeah.
Can you make some eggs?" They're like, "Oh, we don't have eggs." What are you talking about? Put the eggs on the thing, fry them up, put them on the plate. Not hard, dude. I'll pay. I don't care what you charge me for it, man. Just put the eggs on my daughter's plate.
You and
that's
I.
like,
go on. Sorry.
I just don't. Shit like that doesn't, like, it's not on the menu. I don't give a fuck, man. Put them on the plate for me, and I'll pay you.
You and I have a background in customer service, especially with retail oriented, and it just like reminds me.
Shawnee and I work in customer service.
That's true. That's true. Sorry. No. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more of like a corporate environment.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Where the point I was trying to make was there was a video. I think his name was Simon Sinek or something like that. Would talk about Southwest. There was an employee who said like, no, I can't do that because they were scared of being in trouble. Right. Like, so they went to no instead of yes. Yeah. And it's just like saying yes is not only so much easier usually because it's just like empowering to the customer and the employee and all that stuff. But like, it's like, just fix it. You're $1 billion, multi-billion-dollar, international, successful, all the accolades. And it's just like, what are you doing? Yeah. I could see that there's like this concern of like the amount of work it will put on the customer service team. But even then, that's the job, right?
That's what they're there for.
Yeah,
for this shit.
Yeah. Like that literally costs them more to explain to me why they can't than to just be like, yeah, I got you, fam. Boom, boop, and done.
Which arguably, the GMs, the game masters back in like the vanilla era, right, would have easily done that stuff. Like they were always so responsive and right. Well, it's a shame. I'm sorry, Technique, you don't have it. I know you might do it just to help me out with some of the stuff that we might need to do on beta for the YouTube channel and all that stuff. I'm heartbroken. Shawnee, you'll be there for me though, right?
Yep. Yeah. I got it on my work computer and my home computer.
So we got a lot of beta news. Shawnee, have you heard any of it before we jump into it?
Some of it.
Some of it? Okay, well let's start with some of the smaller chunks. We've got a new human racial. Now I know you were really disappointed to hear that what was it, like ambassador, or what was the old one called? Diplomat, right? 10% reputation increase, which I mean it was powerful before, but I think with the new renown system, it was even more.
Wait, they got rid of it?
They replaced it.
So look, I don't want it being called powerful, I feel is like an overstatement. It was a convenient, enjoyable thing. But people were not playing humans on average for this because people play classes that do better in raid. In dungeons.
Isn't the human racial is really good in PvP though?
That racial's not touched.
Not the one. No.
Okay. I see. That's what you're not talking about. But I don't think that people are playing the humans for the diplomacy racial. I've never heard of that.
I did because I always wanted to get reps, but it wasn't. I don't think it's like one of those ones that was like, oh, this is so overpowered, we gotta like nerf it.
No, I think what they're saying is that it's underpowered because reputation is different now.
No, they're saying it's overpowered because rep is different now.
Yeah.
Oh, it is overpowered?
Yeah, because
that's what they're trying to say.
Okay, so let's like apply some math logic to this real quick. If it was in vanilla or any other expansion other than Dragonflight, if it was a total of, I'm just putting arbitrary numbers out, 10,000 rep to get to Exalted, right? Mm-hmm. Which was 4 tiers, so it was like honored, friendly, honored, revered, and exalted, right? So 4 tiers, 10,000 total, and now it's 40 tiers, but it's 2,500 or 2,500 each time. I think the argument is because there's so many more stacks, because some of the renowns go up to level 40, like it did in Plunderstorm, for example. That it would ultimately be more beneficial now because of how many renowns they may put out there for a track.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize that it applied to the track renown.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it did this expansion. It makes a small difference, really. Honestly, it wasn't like I wasn't like way ahead because I played.
At the very least, just drop it to 5%.
I could see someone like playing a human just to grind the shit out of it for like their, party-wide racial or party-wide like warband bonus, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't be me. That's for damn sure. Like I wouldn't do that.
You know how they should have explained this? They should have said, well, humans have made such a shit job of Azeroth that people don't want to do business with them anymore.
Put lore with it, okay.
Yeah, put lore with it.
Shawnee, what were you
That's
gonna
the
say?
Helldivers approach, yeah.
I mean, I think my biggest thing is they took away something that I enjoyed, and then they replaced it with like your Hearthstone cooldown is now 5 minutes less. You get extra charge, and they're like, now you can always go back to your home city more. I'm like, I have
And
an
no one gives a
amount.
shit about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a
2
map that I
charges
can
of-
sell stuff on.
Yeah, 2
Hearthstone.
charges of Hearthstone's hype.
No,
It is not.
If you're questing, it's pretty sweet.
I don't think it's as bad as you guys are saying it is, but it's certainly
I
not
think
hype.
it's awesome. I
Like-
enjoy playing like the Volperas because you can like set another camp and stuff like that. I think this is similar, like getting around the continent implications, I guess.
I feel like the Hearthstone thing is stupid compared to what you have. I'd be like Frank. If they made it 5% instead of 10, I'd be like, sure, at least I still got what I like.
Shawnee, to the
But,
point though,
yeah.
like I've got that Tavon, or I want that Tavon mount, right? And
Mhm.
I've not worked on my renown at all. Like it just didn't.
Oh,
Pull me
now's
in
the
at all.
time before they nerf humans.
And exactly, like if warbands especially, because warbands will be universal, I definitely
Mhm.
see why they did it, and I don't want to say I necessarily agree, but I'm empathetic to the decision they made. Like, yeah, I get it. Like,
Most people don't play, but like,
I agree with you
I
on
don't
that.
think the average person is going to be like, oh god, 10% warband, I gotta get a human and level a human to 70 and do all this track, and then so I can get my warband up higher, than to just go on my alt, which will become my main, because I just want to get through this 10% quicker, which is like, in the grand scheme, probably a few hours for someone.
I don't think that's what they would do. I think they would race change to human, do it all, and then race
Or-
change out. Which,
Sure.
in fairness, if you're Blizzard,
Yeah.
wouldn't that make you
Yeah,
money?
you make more money.
But
And then they're just horrible. Yeah, it's just, I don't think it's
I
stupid.
I get it.
kind of agree. I kind of agree that because they've made warbands and they made the diplomacy thing apply to everyone as a result of that, that it's probably not a great buff for the human, and they probably should have given them something cool instead, rather than
well,
stupid
so
ass Hearthstone.
there's this other argument too, like dwarves with their stone form and night elves with shadow
Yeah,
meld.
give them a combat buff, man.
Well, okay.
Yeah, this isn't their combat ability.
Yeah,
you
the
know?
racials aren't
They have
supposed to.
What?
So give me like 10%
High
more
Mountain
gold.
Tauren has a
What's
great.
comparable?
No, the more gold
No,
goes
that's
to.
not this
I know the Velpera. So they,
Volpera? Yeah, one of them.
yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, give me something useful. I was
What
gaining
is this-
something before,
Yeah.
and now I don't gain anything.
What is diplomacy comparable to on like a Tauren? It's like you have plus 1% stamina and you're a better skinner. Like, what's the?
You get the stomp, but that's obviously
No,
the
the
argument
stomp
for.
is the racial. But I mean, this is just like the little extra.
Yeah.
You know, so like the little extra for most races is not super hype. It's like, oh, you can be a better skinner. It's like, well, I'm an engineer, so I think you already had enough. I think 2 Hearthstone charges is cool. It's fine. It's fine. Diplomacy
think-
was too overpowered.
I don't think I could come up with a better idea.
It wasn't too overpowered. Most people didn't even know it was there, and most
But
people didn't
compare
play
it-
here.
You can't even name what the night elf little flavor thing is.
Their stealth one.
No, she's talking about the
No, 'cause
non-active one.
This is the non-active because the
I don't
humans
play
still
night
need
elf.
their
Used
active
It used to
ability.
be passive dodge chance.
Yeah, passive
I don't know
dodge. You
what it
get
is
1% dodge chance. I mean, that's not exciting. I think I would rather have 2 charges to my Hearthstone than plus 1% crit on my Worgen.
Yeah, I mean, High Mountain Torrents get 1% verse, which is way better than 1% dodge, and then you get a charge stun, dude. That's
I
great
think-
for mobility and great
No, but
for
the humans are
shit.
Take the
keeping
ability
their
out, 'cause,
active
yeah,
ability.
they're
It's
keeping theirs.
different.
What active ability?
They
What,
get
they get to dance
PvP.
out of something that sticks them stuck?
No,
sticks
they
them
break
stuck?
out it. They can break out of roots, which is huge in PvP. They have an extra breakout of roots.
I mean, you can use
You
it
could
all
you,
the time, but
you
it
could
doesn't
use it on
work
the
for
last boss of
anything.
Oldemon and break the magic
Yeah.
spell.
Humans have a
Don't gnomes
fantastic
get that too, or is
active
that-
ability.
If
Something
it was
like
No,
so
that.
gnomes are something else.
fantastic, it'd be what you should play in raid, and it's
I-
also not what you're supposed to play in raid. So
I'm empathetic to both sides. I think the answer though was to drop it from 10% to 5% or something like that, just to like make it still incentive, but
Yeah.
like it's not worth anyone going through the hassle. And if they want to play Blizzard to switch and then switch back, well, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I said what I said. That's way better than 1% crit or 1% stam on a torrent or something.
I'd
So
sooner
to
have
me, I'm
more
like
critter stam.
All right.
1%,
At least it's
Johnny. It's not nothing.
I don't think
It's
we're
not
gonna solve
useful.
the problem today, but I hear both sides. Okay,
You hear both sides. Great.
new KSM mount.
Thanks, Dad.
Now, I love the idea of a KSM mount. I did
I do
not
too.
love the KSM mounts for Dragonflight, mostly because they weren't
Incorrect.
dragons and I couldn't fly with them.
They're so cool though.
Now, they did say they're going to make sure that these fly. So we'll work with what is now called sky riding instead of dragon riding. What do you think of this guy right here?
Tyrion vibes hard, man.
Yeah.
I
The
like
color.
I like mounts of this style as far as like the big body like running in a body type mount.
Yeah.
The model's definitely not new, and they just
the model's
slap some new
new.
paint.
The rig is not
Okay.
new, is what you
Okay.
mean.
Yeah. That's I guess what I mean from an artist perspective. So definitely been done before. Nothing super fancy, but yeah, I don't care about it. I mean, I don't hate it. Is what I mean to say.
What I'm worried
Next
about is
one
we're just
never
going to
use it.
recolors.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about too. Because like the Dragonflight one, you could say oh, it doesn't fly, whatever. But each season had not just recolors, but entire like effect changes. Like there were things added to the models that changed it, so they were like really different from each other. I would hate to just see this one but purple. You know what I mean? Like they better do something cool each season. Because to go back to recolors, like the Shadowlands ones is definitely a step down from what they did in Dragonflight. So
I would
hear
just use a sky golem instead of this. This looks like a sky golem with the helmet.
I mean,
Yep.
I think the mount itself looks fine.
Wasn't
You
the
know,
Sky
it-
Golem... Sorry, go on.
No, that's it. I think the mount itself looks fine. I think if they just recolor it, that would be a step down. So
Wasn't the Sky Golem also hard to get, like, super
Yeah.
rare?
it would take
It
take
was.
like a month of, and it was an engineering mount that you could create.
Took forever.
What was so hype about it is that you could like pick herbs and stuff when you were riding
Uh-huh.
in it.
Well, at least we're in a point now where they're giving us flying mounts on it. All right,
Yeah.
let's keep moving. A lot to talk about. DPS trinkets and cantrips, which I guess is just like effects that you add to like ring effects that like the Diana ring, the one that has fire. Anyways, point is
Okay.
DPS trinkets and cantrips will have reduced effects as 33% based on if a tank or a healer in the spec, not if they play the DPS specs, it doesn't affect, will reduce the damage it does if you're a tank or a healer. I know I said a lot there. So
Okay.
this is, I think, and actually I'm going to read you what one of the class writers said. So first let's read what they said. DPS trinkets and items will, with additional effects reduced by 33% for tanks and healer specializations. And they're saying, tanks and healers choosing to wear damage trinkets have often seen them contribute a disproportionate and unintended amount of their overall damage. We have an example of this of when we ran with Alicia on her monk. You guys made fun of the fact that as a tank, she was doing more damage than I was. And
Yeah.
almost, I mean, I would
Stuck
say
with you, eh?
arguably like a low DPS. Yeah, shut up. It'd be a low DPS. So it's effectively like moving the key along significantly more. And they want to shift that power back and making sure that it's about the DPS doing the DPS and the tanks and healers doing their jobs. So
That was like a year ago, Frank. That really stuck with you.
It did,
guys-
man. That's like
you guys-
an old reference, dude.
You guys act,
Alicia
first
all
off, it was
season.
season 3, okay? And second,
Okay.
you guys act like it's not something you guys throw at me every single time you can. Anyways,
okay, just an observation.
anyways, all right, so this is what Itame, I guess is how you pronounce the name. So currently a large proportion of tank damage, roughly 20% in AoE and 40% in single target, depending on spec, comes from an external source such as cantrips and trinkets. There are two general schools of thought on tanking: the older mentality, which has been generally de-emphasized since Legion, is that tanks exist primarily to soak damage and survive, while the more modern one is that tanks should also help contribute damage, and survivability can come from proper rotational play. Tank damage contribution is also important both in raids, who hasn't had a sub 1% wipe, as well as Mythic Plus, in which beating the timer is the core gameplay. And this change negatively affects both schools. Now, I'm not going to go any further into that discussion, but I am of the previous, the former mindset of, if I'm a tank, I tank. If you're a healer, you heal. You've heard me get angry with our healers when they roll on DPS trinkets because they want to do more damage in keys or raid. I've made my point there. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this. So, Technique, your tank. Let's start with you.
Okay, so the general mentality of a tank should tank, a healer should heal, and DPS should DPS, I do get with. Is this the solution? Probably not. If you look at like Dragon Flight, I'm on my tank right now. Let me just count it up. How many items do I have that do external version of damage? We have the Incandescent Essence. We have the...
Probably have Ferox Raid Chart.
Ferox Raid Chart. We have the Golok, the Final Conflag, and we have the Ring. And we have the Shadow Belt Clasp.
What about your
the belt?
What about your other crafting enhancements, whatever they're called?
Yeah, the Shadow Belt Clasp is the only one I think that's doing damage there. It might be in there too. I don't.
And you
like
get haste from this, but yeah, I get your point.
But yeah, dude, you're talking like 6-7 items that aren't trinkets, that are doing a bunch of damage, external damage, and yeah, that makes up a shit ton of my damage. So, is the solution to be like, oh well, trinkets are the problem? That's not the problem, dude.
I think this is affecting all of them.
And let me also
that's
say,
what they mean by cantrips, I believe.
Like, cantrips is an actual item that you can put on your shield, I think, is what it was. I think. Nobody uses it. Anyway, it doesn't matter if I do less damage. Like, let's say they cut my damage in half and every other tank's too. Like, I'm still going to push for doing damage as a tank unless they dramatically change how much damage I'm taking. And so I feel like, and this is something me and Roar were talking about just a minute ago, I feel like the fix is to do more damage to tanks again and have less one-shot mechanics on DPS. The DPS hate that shit. You know, it doesn't do anything to me because I'm practically unkillable. I can stand in all of it unless you're doing the top-end keys in the game. I feel like the healer should be, like, really worried about the tank, and the tank should be, like, really paying attention to his healer again, where that's just not the case anymore. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my take. I don't think that the trinkets are really the right direction to go. I feel like I do want to be a tank again and not just a fatter DPS.
There was a blue post that the devs tried to explain themselves. Now, granted, the wording was a little all over the place, so I'm not going to show it. But my reading of it was that their intent is that they don't want to stop tanks from having a DPS version of their kit, right? Mm-hmm. But what they want to do is they want to make it so that when you choose those talents, instead of having to worry about the trinkets, like swapping to a DPS trinket, you still hold your defensive trinkets, but do the same amount of damage that you would had you switched your trinkets before this change, right? So let's just say you're doing, 100,000 DPS, just for the sake of argument, right? Now, but when this change takes effect,
I'm doing 300k DPS.
Fine, 300k. Let's say you're doing 300k. Now, they implement this trinket change, right? And it drops to 250, let's just say, right? What they want to do is they want to make it so that your DPS is really 200k when you're in your defensive version of your talent tree. And when you switch to a DPS build, like you do sometimes, you tank in battle stance sometimes, that you'd be doing 300k, right? That's my reading of the scenario, which I love this idea.
That's an optimistic reading of the scenario.
It is very optimistic, yes, absolutely. But even if it wasn't that way, I love this change. And granted, maybe I'm just, the old man that needs to get with the times, but I want to worry about staying alive, to your point, Technique, and helping the group and whatever stay alive more than I didn't do enough DPS and so we're not timing the key. But the truth is that as long as that timer's on that key, it's irrelevant. I'm going to have to try to push as much DPS because I could be the one that saves us. I mean, every time the Raider IO's summary comes out for the season, we always see that one key that we finished by 0.4 seconds or whatever. And that is not only the difference of the tank and the healer doing more damage, but every bit counts. So Shawnee, you've played a healer. I don't think you've ever prioritized damage as a healer, but you were a paladin, which some seasons are notorious for doing good damage. What are your thoughts?
I think healers should heal, tanks should tanks, and DPS should DPS. I don't like the idea that I hear DPS all the time saying it's your job to heal. Well, my answer, it's your job to DPS. So if we don't time a key, it's on the DPS. Just like if people die, they blame me. So yeah, I'm very much for the idea of all those specs doing it, but they're going to have to change how the dungeons work, like Tech said, more than anything.
Well, I think they need to do that regardless.
Yeah. But I do think everyone should have their thing, because there is people that get like left out because they'll be like, oh, we got to take, well, I mean, a lot of hierarchies, they don't even bother with a healer, but that's also like too many defensives and whatnot. Yeah, I think they've definitely made the game, I don't know, I don't want to say easier, but it's, I like the idea of a healer healing.
But I mean, I don't even think this has, like, I think those are two separate columns of thought, like the idea of the healers have to do more healing, etc. Because it's not like the healers don't have a hard time in the keys, arguably, right? Now, granted, Automatic Jack did a video some time ago talking about how raid healing looks nothing like it used to, and that is a lot, I think, to do with the idea of these, mega mechanics that are bringing everyone down to 20% health quickly, whatever. Yeah, but I don't think that has it drove me absolutely bananas when we had Sarkareth die, and I think Beacon of the Beyond is the trinket that does that insane amount of like dropping a star on someone and doing 1 million damage, whatever. And they were rolling on it while the DPS were rolling on it, and it's like, I have no problem with them picking it up after the DPS get it, but like their argument was, our healers, and I'm not going to name names, argument was like, no, it's equally important for me to have it because it has my stats on it, it has crit, whatever, but also I can do damage as a healer and help the DPS out. And like, to me, it's like, well, you're robbing the DPS to do that DPS. It's a moot point,
I would like it more if it was just healer sealed.
Yeah.
And that same video, Automatic Jack talked about how so many keys, they're not even worried about, like, as they get hired, about how many wipes they have, because they're able to do so many nukes to get through the key faster. They were okay with dying. So it's a weird place where healing and tanking have been usurped by like, how much damage can we do overall?
Well, and there's another topic to the idea of how many keys are being done without a healer right now, which, that's another topic for another day. But anyway, Scrap, as the DPS of the group, do you care?
Believe it or not, I have no opinion. I don't know what tanks do. I don't know what healers do. I just stay in my lane. I don't care.
Yeah, and I think we're
not for me to comment on.
We're lucky that we're in an environment where, and maybe it's just within the very close, I'll call it the E-team group for those who know it. We never really hold each other to the flame like that. We would all sit there and say, it's the healer's job to heal, and it's the tank's job to pull and survive.
Well, I remember in Shadowlands, it might just been from our comp, like we were hitting a point where we were not timing keys because we weren't meeting the DPS threshold without wipes or anything. And it was like, we'd look at the healer DPS and be like, holy shit, dude, you did 0 DPS. What's going on there? I feel like
said that once in a while, yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like in Dragonflight, when we're not timing keys, it's because we wiped. It's never because we did it perfectly and we just didn't meet the DPS threshold. So that tells me it's in a good place where, we're not trying to eke out that tiny 1%, but it might just be the key level we're running out. But I feel like it's better that the keys are deadlier and harder to survive at a certain level, and that's where the wall is, as opposed to like number not big enough. Like when we're all kind of playing, not to the best of all players, but like on the higher end of like, we know our classes, we know our DPS rotations. We're not timing it because we're fucking up, not because we don't know our class.
Yeah. I just worry. I worry that there's, again, this is part of the reason why our podcast exists, because there's the select group of people who push the 30s, 20s, whatever, the super high end, and all the power to them. They want their healers to DPS, they want their tanks to, like, part of the reason why some tanks are meta sometimes is because they just do insane amounts of damage comparatively. You know, remember when blood DKs in season 4 of Shadowlands, I think it was, were doing insane amounts of DPS comparatively, and so yeah, they were like part of the meta there. But for the other, 99% of us, we're not timing the key because the tank did 150 versus 180 KDPS, arguably, right? You could say, well, you would have timed it if they did, sure, but like at some point there's like I don't know, this infinite scaling of keys is just kind of like, well, at some point there's just not enough DPS, you can't time the key no matter what you do. Yeah, and that's
why I prefer.
So why am I worried about squeezing it out so hard,
Yeah, I definitely prefer when we're hitting a wall because we're not executing things flawlessly as opposed to just like our numbers not big enough. Because I feel like in Shadowlands sometimes that's what it felt like, is that we were all playing pretty well, not have a lot of deaths, make it through the dungeon quickly and just like miss the timer just a little bit because there wasn't enough number, even though we executed it perfectly. Dragonflight, we're definitely hitting the part where like we're not timing it because it's gotten too hard. We're old, our reflexes are slow. It's not because or the number's not big enough.
Yeah.
So it feels good.
All right. Well, I mean, it sounds like for the most part we all like this change. I
don't even know. Yeah,
well,
no, I don't know.
You're indifferent.
Don't put me in that box.
Yeah. You don't want to get the hate mail on the comment section.
I don't care about that either.
I gotta say, I don't like this change. I think I like what they wanted to do, but I don't like what they're doing to get there. I don't think it makes sense to be like, the trinkets are the problem. It's not the problem.
What is the problem?
Sure, maybe the scaling of the trinkets, I suppose. But no, the trinkets aren't the problem, dude. Because what are you gonna do? Just make like trinkets not available to certain classes? Just change?
No, they're not. They're not saying you can't use them. They're just saying if you're in a certain spec, they will do less damage because you're not a damage dealer.
Okay, then base it off of things like stamina or versatility. Not necessarily like my spec. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. I think focusing solely on trinkets is probably not the solution.
Look, someone asked me this on Discord before because we were like, they were all vehemently anti this, and I bet with them that they weren't going to roll this change back, but I'm getting more and more shaky on it based on the amount of outcry I'm hearing about it. But I always choose the defensive trinkets on Ariosta when I'm playing in my tank, because even if I'm not like dying and always at a threat of dying, I feel like, especially a good tanking, like they said in the forums today, like all the tanking trinkets and all the healing trinkets were dog shit. This expansion, some of them were. I'm not going to say all of them weren't, but like I think Rage Heart is good. It does a ton of damage, so if it were tuned down 33%, it's still a great trinket, and I like having it because my argument is even if I'm not worried about dying all the time, being able to press that button and give my healers just a little bit of chance to know, like, Shawnee, how many times have I told you, like, don't worry about me, so that you can focus on, the big problem that everyone else is dealing with, scrap standing in fire. And I think that's part of the reason why I like those trinkets, even if I'm not worried about dying all the time. Yes, at a point when I'm doing, let's say 10s right now, but I'm geared to the teeth, okay, well then I'll switch to a DPS trinket. Yes, it might do 33% less, but that's still going to be a DPS increase for me overall. And like, I'm okay with that. I don't know. I just feel like this is a good change for a mindset. Like, obviously, at the end of the day, the numbers will all level out and they'll all, like everyone will be on the same playing field. I just think this is a good mindset to have. Like, let's not have tanks and healers hunting DPS trinkets, because at that point, they're not going to make tank and healing trinkets ever again. What's the point,
I will say, as DPS, I don't want you needing on a trinket that I need.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good change for us.
Actually, scrap. How many times has Technique said in Raid that's a tank trinket? And it's like,
Well, in his defense, my favorite trinket is Storm Eater's Boon, which is like a tank trinket too. So
Storm Eater's Boon, is that the one where you turn into the storm?
Yeah.
I think a tank not being able to move for 10 seconds isn't necessarily a good thing.
I think originally when we were talking about it when it came out in season 1, Technique was saying, "Oh, it's definitely a tank trinket because you'll survive whatever horse shit comes at you." It's only 10 seconds, so there's.
But is that an intended design, or is that it's a logical one?
I don't know. I thought it kind of was. So
because it's not like it's doing any benefit for the tank other than dealing damage.
No, it's just that you can soak like circles or something if you happen to be standing in them.
Not all
if
of
you're the
them.
tank.
Again, you're running Sanguine, and it's Sanguine just I can't
No,
move
but
him, guys.
you pop
Sorry.
it at the beginning. Like, why are you running to Sanguine? It's 10
How many
seconds.
frontals are
It's
there? How
10
many?
seconds.
No, that's not. No, I disagree with that logic.
I
Dude,
love
saying-
trinkets that have a downside. I love
I do
trinkets
too.
that
I do
like
too.
are great, but
Kiss
be
curse.
careful type
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah.
I like them.
Yeah. Watch
But-
out. High risk, high reward. That's what I like in my
But
trinkets too. I like
that's-
trinkets that change my gameplay. So.
But that trinket is Kiss Curse regardless of whether a tank or
Kiss
DPS
curse.
use it. So
No, but I'm just saying, like, I managed to find time to use it pretty much on cooldown, and a single circle will one-shot me. So there's got to be a 10 seconds for a tank to use it where he can take one circle, or one frontal.
No, I mean,
don't say no. I'm sure. Oh, somebody put in the comments that you use it. Like, what the hell?
I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying it's impossible.
Well, I'm telling you,
I'm saying
as a
that's
DPS,
not a good logic.
I don't think it's a bad logic.
Oh my
It does a ton of
goodness. Okay.
damage.
Anyways, yeah.
And
Okay,
it's even
I'll prove my
better
point by
because-
saying how many DKs love standing in their death and decay for their defensive actions? None of them do. So because they're
Let me
moving
tell you this.
constantly.
It's the
Alright,
best for the tank because the tank can't move it out of your Storm Eater's boon because you are the tank.
You're such an
I'm just
asshole.
saying.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah,
All right,
Johnny,
what?
Yeah, I was trying to say, let's move on.
Yeah, he
The
wants us
next
to move
thing.
on. So last time we very briefly, I didn't get a chance to see the news before we recorded our podcast, but we talked about the story mode within the new raid. They've upped it to 10 players in case you do want to do it with more people. However, we learned that night that it will not be all bosses. It will only be, in this case at least, the last boss. And there's still no word on whether the boss will give loot or not. Just wanted to get you guys pulse on this. Like, do you care?
Wait, you only can do the last boss? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. The
I
fuck?
think
Yeah,
it's
this
just
is-
because it's a part of the story, so you can go.
But
through
are not the
like,
other bosses part of the
quest line.
story?
So
not usually in raid.
Yeah, usually. Yeah, there's normally a
No.
whole fucking story going through the whole raid. There's not just like, oh, there's a dog in this hallway, like in
No,
the
I
way. Like
think
normally there's
what-
one like that, but
I mean, I wasn't talking scrap. It's all right.
no, I started talking first. Go on.
No. Anyway, what I'm saying is the story is usually when you kill the last boss. That's when they say like, oh, and the cut screen and
Right.
everything. So it's not after every boss you get a
But
cut
it's not just about the cutscene. I mean, I think about like there's definitely story happening throughout it of like characters coming with you and like Neltharion, like there's a whole story with that. Like I'm
a
thinking
huge
of the
story with that.
Sarkrath. Yeah, I'm thinking about the Sarkrath raid, and it's like all the parts of that raid are like part of the story that you're busting into this like this unused kind of experimental area, and like you're kind of learning all these pieces. The characters are with you, they're talking, they're chatting. There's just the journey of the raid is the story. It's not just like, oh yeah, here's the last Sarkrath, yeah, whatever. Like you're learning about Sarkrath throughout the whole raid.
And they probably made the story so it doesn't for this. Would be my guess. That's why you would only do. One
I don't.
boss.
Yeah, to
That
Shai's
mega
point,
sucks then, because
I
it's
don't
like
think
it's like
that
okay,
they're locking in that this will always be only the last boss. But
that's terrible design then, because it's like okay, there's the last boss is important to the story, and the rest of the bosses are just kind of like in the way. Like
I don't know. That's
That
a very
sucks.
absolute way to look at it. No, they obviously the
they're
other
more
bosses
than in the
still
way-
matter. But
if
it's
they're-
not like
if
you
they're
need to
not-
know what happened to Dog on the way to boss to
But
understand.
then you're saying that like all 9 of the bosses are dog on the way to boss. That sucks.
No,
Like
no,
they should be
no.
woven into the story. They should
No.
be essential to the story. And if they're
Usually-
not, then they fucked up.
Not every boss
Agree.
needs to be essential though.
No, but a good portion of it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
why the fuck are you doing it? There's always a dog in the hallway that you got to run past. That's fine. Like that's
mean,
there just always
when
is.
There's always a
when you
patchwork.
did like Blackwing Lair for the first time, like every single monster, dragon, boss, every single boss had like a little bit of lore that was interesting at the time, and there was a quest or
Yeah.
something that led you to go kill. It was interesting. I feel
I
like so. I described what we thought story last time we talked about it. I described what we thought story mode was to be to my wife, and she was like, "Oh, that sounds great for someone
yeah,
like her
I agree.
that
I agree.
gets anxiety when things become competitive, and she just feels like she's being left behind, doesn't want to be a part of that." She would love to go in and like story mode the raid to finish the story, and I feel like this is like a really lazy.
Yeah.
To me, it's just like, oh, we don't have the time or the money to invest into making this the way we want it to be, so we're gonna do it for one boss, and that's it. That's really stupid. Like, just wait, hold it, for next time or get it done right.
Yeah, until it's
You'd
ready.
rather nothing than
Yes,
I would,
absolutely.
yeah,
I make
'cause
that
this
decision in
is
my real
bad.
life all the time. I would rather save my money and buy the thing I
No.
want.
You're
then-
suggesting that they're wasting money. They're not. They're like, hey, we did
no,
this thing,
no.
and you're like, no, throw it away. I don't want it unless it's the full thing.
Yes, exactly. I don't want the fucking kiddie version. I want the whole thing. I want it right. That's my opinion. It doesn't matter if it's a money thing. That's just
This
the
one-
example I used.
This 100% is saying that like the 9 bosses leading up to the last boss are not essential story content.
Yes, it is
lame.
saying that.
Yeah, it's super lame.
But
that's
what
poor
raid?
design.
I think the Blackwing Lair example is also like. Could you name any of the bosses leading up to?
My memory doesn't work that
I've
way.
not
I'm
done
sorry.
Blackwing Lair, but like I'm thinking of old raids like
okay, give me another raid.
Okay,
Let's do.
BFA raid, the one with Jaina at the end.
Yeah.
There is so much fucking story in that.
That's
like
probably
there's, like,
the best example of that, right?
Yeah, you can't cut like half the bosses out. There's so much going on. You raid Zandalar, you know, like there's Bwamsamdi. You kill
Jaina.
Mecha Torque or whatever.
Yeah, Mecha Torque.
So yeah, those are all essential. Like, imagine if you just did Jaina. You'd be missing the whole build up to that.
No, because the quests do that still. You learn about Mecha Torque in the quests. You learn about
Yeah, but you don't learn what happened to
Bwamsamdi.
him. Like if you just go kill Jaina, yeah, you don't get to finish Bwamsamdi's story.
I
if you,
don't
like,
disagree.
You're missing so much.
I don't disagree, and I think the Battlefield Dazzle or whatever is the best example of that. So like that's a great place to point it.
I mean that raid came out 5 years ago. Why are we regressing?
We're not regressing. Everything is still there.
Why,
that was there 5 years ago.
Hold on. Why is the best example 5 years ago? Why haven't the examples stayed?
You mean as far as
good
stories in raids?
Yeah,
go?
as far as
okay,
stories.
Okay.
Well,
I thought you were talking about tech, like the tech that gives the players.
No, I think that's a fair question. Is that you say that's the best example? That was a raid 5 years ago, and they've done worse since then.
Even in
for 5 years.
Pandaria, you have Lorewalker Cho taking you through the Siege of Orgrimmar. There's some story throughout that entire raid that's interesting.
Is
if not,
any of it relevant?
If it's not relevant, why the fuck are we playing it, bro?
Yeah, why are we doing it?
Because there's a technical side to the game as well. So like, your argument is if there's no story, I'm not playing it. Scrap, you went through Sarkareth's raid and didn't know a shit thing about the entire story.
You're right.
So it's irrelevant. It's
no,
irrelevant.
I'm just saying if their point is to make
but
this
not
part...
to the story mode player.
I'm not saying
they like those little details. I don't give a shit why we're there. I want the epics. But that's not. I'm not playing story mode, dude. If you're gonna make the content for someone that wants that shit, make it. Don't give them one boss with a conversation.
No, and I don't disagree with that. I want to be clear. I don't disagree with that. Like I want it all. I would like it all too. But my flag raised when you said throw it away. I don't want it at all.
I'm with Technique. Don't half-ass it.
I want
do it all the way.
Ready.
Bring us
I don't
home
want
on
it
this
today if it's not done.
Shawnee's the ref.
If there's, this is how I look at it. If there's not cutscenes in between that actually relate to the story, then they're not actually missing a ton of the story. I understand what they're saying. There are little things, but we just did a panda raid, and the only cutscene was at the very end of the dungeon. It's meant for story simply.
B plot.
Like, yeah, and like it's just like when we do quests. There's a ton of quests, and nobody reads them. Nobody knows what's going on. They're just killing whatever. So
not nobody, but of a small percent.
Not nobody. Sorry, yes. But
we got to stop dealing with absolutes.
I understand what Scrap and Technique are getting at, and I don't think people are going to be super upset on average if they're not like they're going to be like they're not missing anything because they don't know anything they're missing.
I mean, what you're missing, taking Siege of Orgrimmar as example, is that let's say it's just to teleport you into the bowels of Orgrimmar, where there's like this huge underground complex, and you have no idea that even exists if you're just teleported there.
So we don't know how it will go. We don't know if you're doing the story mode, if there's some other cut screen before you go into the dungeon that tells you like, hey, we've battled through this, and they show you some stuff, and then you're at the end. We don't know.
Narration.
Why not make the whole damn raid a cutscene then? At that point, it's like, oh, if you don't do the raid, here's just what the heroes do.
No,
hold
on.
I want to say, man, one second. So on Shawnee's point, to me, it's like you are net gain 0 for the story mode type of player because you're giving them what will be probably 15 minutes of a story in front of a boss, and then you walk through it with no loot. And then for the people like me that weren't going to do it anyway, it doesn't matter. Like I wasn't gonna see it anyway because I wasn't gonna do story mode most likely because I'm gonna be in the raid. I don't need to do the story mode version unless the story mode turns out to be something we're not expecting, which all cinematic, super impressive, like
No, it won't be.
detailed
It's
story that
not.
you wouldn't
Absolutely
see
not.
in the
They
regular
do
They
anything
would
raid.
like
make the
that.
whole raid story mode if that were the effort they were going to put into it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well-
or maybe they are going to put that effort into it so that you do the story mode, but I don't know. We'll see.
Doesn't look like they're putting any effort into it from my point of view.
A lot of times you have to beat the final raid boss to do some part of a
That's true,
storyline
too.
for an item or whatever.
Yeah,
So
that's true too.
this would help those people. Or the people that are like, I just want to get through this quest. I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm just
Shawnee,
I feel
guessing.
like
I think
story
you're right.
mode is a shit name for it then.
I think you're right, Shawnee. Like, again, every single raid we've done, this 2 expansions at minimum, had a go kill the jailer, go kill, Sarkareth, whatever. And for that, like, there's going to be tons of strings of plots, but to the point of what story mode I think is hoping to achieve, other than maybe helping people get those quests done very easily, is the A plot, the plot that's moving the entire big cinematic story along, not the Mechatorks, not the Wumsombies, who are all great stories, but
isn't it? Can you picture this? How disappointing it would be. Sorry to cut you off, but like, you're invested in the story. You're building up to this whole thing. You're gonna siege Orgrimmar, and it's just like, okay, ready to siege Orgrimmar. Okay, we're just gonna teleport you to the end.
What if they
if I
give you a
wanted
big
to do it the other
video?
way, I'd go into a raid.
Well, the whole point is that people don't. They say they're trying to offer a single player experience for people who don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but I don't.
And
again,
they're not offering a
I
comparable
want to be clear.
experience.
I would love if they had a RP version of the entire raid. I want to be clear on that. I'm also empathetic to the fact that we can sit here and backseat dev them, talking about what they do with their time, but I don't think the juice would be worth the squeeze on doing all that energy. I'd rather have another dungeon, right? Spend the time developing a dungeon. And not that that's how the devs use their time anyways, but like make another raid for the end of the season 4 that we don't have right now. Like that's where I want them to put their energy.
I think calling it story mode does a disservice. It should be called complete the last quest mode.
All right,
Because it's not the story.
Let's move on.
That
Once again,
sucks.
we're on the
I'm
same
disappointed
brain.
in that. Yeah.
Keep moving.
All right. Okay. They made some changes to crests in Mythic Plus. Going forward, you will only receive the highest level of crest, which I don't know if they've named it. Oh yeah, they've weathered.
Aspect,
Okay.
it says?
Yeah. So they've weathered, carved, ruined, and gilded. So gilded will be the new aspect.
Gilded.
Will only be
Got it.
obtainable in 9 or higher keys, which it was 6 in this season.
Okay.
And there'll be more key, more crests
No,
depending
Frank,
on that.
it was 7, wasn't it?
No, 6.
Oh,
7.
okay.
7's where you got the hero track gear. 8 was where you got the myth track in your vault.
Okay.
Right. I think this is now. Granted, how many of you have alts that you actively play?
Not
Shawnee,
me.
you're jumping into Shawnee again, as opposed to your pally. Your rogue.
I did for a long time, but then they just made having alts like almost a pain.
The
but
first
okay.
few
I will-
seasons, yeah, I did.
I will say getting back, and once warbands come out, I'll 100% have alts.
You say that they made having alts a pain. Now, when is that time stamp on the timeline of WoW?
For me, really, this expansion with
Wow.
the crafted gear and the amount of money and gold it was to buy all the things, and
More
all the
so than Shadowlands and the likes?
yeah, this one's been the worst for me. Like, this is the first time I've only ever played like one character through an expansion. Usually I had like 3.
I want to be clear. So you're saying, like, let's use money as the example. You're saying it's more expensive to craft that gear that you have to craft for your alts than it was to get the legendaries in Shadowlands?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I think I had all the legendaries in Shadowlands.
It was the
Legendaries
same price.
Legendaries cost like 250,000 to make.
No,
I don't know.
no,
I didn't.
it's the same. It went down in price as the seasons go on.
I found this season the worst for me for alts. For me, I don't know how it is for everyone else.
All right.
This expansion, I mean.
I'm
Yeah.
blown away by this because Frank has geared so quickly to the point where Shamrock has geared so quickly to the point where I have other alts that are ready to jump into Mythic Plus. I never had that luxury, whereas in Shadowlands I had to make 2 legendaries, which cost 200k each, whatever it was, right? I had to effectively would buy tokens if I didn't farm for the gold. But the one pain point that I'm facing right now, and this is a step in the right direction for me, is because Frank, I want to do 8s to get the myth track gear in my vault. So I do like 8 dungeons at 8+ or higher. I'm not getting any worm crests or drake crests or whatever to upgrade gear that I might have gotten from, for example, the bullions, which require all the tokens, all the crests, excuse me, to upgrade. So I have to keep converting my aspects down. And what ends up happening is I'm like, okay, well, you know what? It's just faster if I run 2s to get drake crests, but no one's running 2s anymore because like who the hell wants to run a 2 when I can run a 5 or a 6 or 7 or whatever? And so like it's now equally as much time to get the other crests. I might as well just continue to run my 8s and downgrade my aspects. So I think this is a good change. Because the truth is that I'm going to be aiming for those 8+ anyways for my myth track gear in my vault. And now there's a reason to go from 8 to 9 as opposed to right now running a 9 is for the most part irrelevant.
We also don't know how the balance is going to shake out. Like, is a 10 this season going to be comparable in difficulty to a 10 next season, or is it going to be easier next season? Who can say?
I think it's I think it's safe to
balancing
assume.
is always up in the air.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's safe to assume 10s will be equal, and again, air quotes, equally.
Assuming it's comparable, I kind of like the change that the max is a 9 and not an 8. 8s are pretty breezy. I mean, you're ending every key with +2, no problem, easy peasy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a +9 is maybe a better number.
Well, and it makes the 9s and 10s not only more valuable from the myth track gear, which you can still get an 8, assuming they don't change it. But yeah, now there's a reason to jump to 9 for that aspect crest. So yeah, I think this is a great change. I think this is more of like a housekeeping thing that they didn't realize would happen in season 4 when they made the dungeon squish from 20 to 10. And then like everything was giving drake crests and or aspects, but all of it was champion or no heroic gear up until the point where you get to or whatever, champion gear. Point is, I think this is more of like a housekeeping thing from what happened with this season's change. But I do like the change, and I do think it's alt friendly because, as I said, all my alts right now are running aspect stuff, and I have to keep converting it down. I have 9 drake crests, and I just want to go get 6 more somewhere quickly, and I can't. Like I had to run the raid, and I was like, well, I'm already here. Let me just run more, and I just got like 40 of them instead. Anyways,
I mean, I would definitely play more casually than you, like just one character and stuff. But I normally have I have such an excess of aspect crests that I don't have any problem dropping them down. Like,
all right, let's keep moving then. 4 new placeholder affixes added to the alpha. We don't know if they're going to replace affixes, and I was really hoping that we would see, because maybe they'd be data mined in this beta build, but they weren't, at least as of yet. I just wanted to quickly get y'all's thoughts. Do you think more affixes and maybe replacing affixes is the right thing? What affixes would you replace?
They got to keep it fresh, so I like new affixes.
Okay. It would, like, if they added it to the current pool, you'd still be like, that's cool?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind them taking 1 out or 2. I'm trying to think what I would want taken out.
Technique?
I would get rid of all of them and bring in things like the woo and the o and the rur.
Seasonal.
New stuff. New stuff.
You got none of those names right.
And the ro. I know, on purpose, because it's got to be new.
Oh,
but I really
loved names.
I loved those seasonal affixes because, it brought a lot of, we've talked about this every time I've talked, I think. But yeah, it just brings a lot of like different energy to each run. And it kind of fucks with your run. And I know that they're kind of leaning more toward not that. They're kind of leaning more toward like, oh, do the dungeon, not the affixes. Why have affixes then? But yeah. I love seasonal affixes, man. I hope they do something cool and interesting.
Would you take any affixes out and swap it with what potentially could be these new ones?
None of the affixes currently actually matter to a prot warrior, so no, I don't care.
Okay. Shawnee?
Yeah, I'm fine with new ones. I'd like them to just come in and make it so there's like more weeks in between the ones I maybe not like, instead of just fully taking them out.
Here's a question that we were again in Discord talking about earlier today before the podcast. I am of the camp. Okay, so we'll use Incorporeal and Afflicted as our examples. Okay.
Oh, those I would take out.
Yes,
You change my answer?
in my opinion, I would take out the cleanse one. Right, I'm cool with the CC one because there's so many CCs that people can use.
Yeah, because everybody can deal with it.
Yeah, well, most everyone, because warriors I don't think can do much, but
only warriors can't deal with it, which is horse shit. 'Cause they can't do anything else.
Can DKs deal with? Okay, anyways, point is, I would take out the cleanse one, which I think is afflicted, and even if I left it in, though, the conversation we're having in Discord today was, I believe that if that is going to be in there, and it is most adversely affecting the healers, but can also affect other people who have to stop and do it too, like, again, I'm a mage, I decurse it, there should be a reward for being the person that does it, okay?
Yeah, you should get a buff.
Yes, but when I said this in Discord, people were like, no, it should be the opposite, right? There's like,
what do you mean it's the opposite? You get punished.
So I don't want to go into their argument because I don't want to sound for them and misrepresent what they're saying. But like my argument was, I should get a 5%, let's just say, damage buff for like, let's say my next spell hits for 5% harder. Just one spell hits 5% harder, right? Yeah. Just something tiny to say, hey, thank you for doing the work.
Just to offset you using a global cooldown.
Exactly, right? That was my point. Like there's a damage loss in losing the global, even just one global. Right?
Yeah.
Especially global, as like an arcane mage when I'm in my burn phase, that one global means the world, right?
Yeah.
And totally. I'm punished, and the healer again, the healer is punished so severely because they either have to choose the afflicted to cleanse or choose the mechanic to cleanse, which they're now not, getting the tank debuff off of them or saving the person's life, whatever. Yeah. And then on top of that, if they don't do either or they have to do the other, to cleanse the tank, they have to then heal it up themselves because the DPS is being a shithead and not doing their part to help out, right? Like, if the way I look at it is, you should be incentivized for doing the mechanic because, like, it should be a race. Like, imagine scrap every time we interrupt, right? Because we always talk about interrupts.
There was. Yeah. Wasn't there one season?
I have a novel idea.
Wasn't there scrap? Something where, like, if you interrupted...
I can't think of something.
I thought
you get a buff?
Yeah, you get a buff for interrupting.
I
thought there was, because you were like, no, I get a buff when I interrupt, and you were like,
oh no, that's a hunter thing. That's a hunter thing. Okay. It's a survival.
Like, as a mage, I get 4 seconds off my cooldown. But technique, what's your stupid idea?
Stupid idea. We have this amazing little world button that we don't actually use in Mythic Dungeons often. I feel like if you're going to introduce
where are we going with
Affix, I think if you're going to introduce an affix that makes you dispel something, everyone should be able to do it with the world global button. Like, just make it a different thing. I have to click it and use my global button if I want to do it.
That's kind of Cocomelon, though.
So
it's just
like
hit the big red button.
Don't make it so that I have... No, I mean, you might have to stop what you're doing, target the thing, and use the item, but don't make it so that you have to invite a priest with Mass Dispel. You know what I mean?
I agree. Let me tell you what my perfect world would be. Merge the two affixes together. You can either CC it or cleanse it.
I'd vibe with that.
Vibe with that. Perfect.
No, then but like
I can't do either.
Let's do that.
I still can't do either.
Yeah.
Not only can everybody deal with it, except warriors, they should fix that.
Honestly, warriors are too dumb to be dealing with shit anyway. Leave it how it is. I don't want to deal with shit.
Technically, you made the point the other day that like warriors don't have spells; they just have abilities. Like there is no spell they can cast.
I don't need a spell book. I need I don't know, a brain.
Anytime something silences you as a warrior, it's like, who cares? I don't
big deal.
use it.
Smash.
Like,
leap.
Yep.
No, part of the argument was that it's not fair. Okay, like part of the argument they were upset with is like, well, that's not fair. I don't have an ability to deal with it. Like, well, yes, I agree that you should have an ability to deal with it. So to your point, merging the two would be a step in that direction, but make it so that Stormbolt or something does enough to...
I think that it would be really good because then you'd have options. Like it's like you can pivot in certain situations. Like I'm in my cooldown window, so like maybe the healer, there's not a lot of heal things going on, so cleansing would be more beneficial for that moment. Or like maybe there's a big cleanse coming up, so it's like now we CC it. Then there's even more coordination and more working around the affix. It sucks how it is now. Merge them.
Are these people more upset though that they won't get a little buff to their DPS because that's stupid.
Well,
I like the buff. I miss the seasonal affixes where you would get a buff for whatever you did. They should put that back in affixes.
Yeah, I think if someone does something extra, then why not reward them?
Well, and again, it's not even that, because I do agree with you on that, but it's also I lost a global as a result, right?
Yeah, I hate losing a global. Shut up,
Anyway.
Technique. It's a big deal.
One
you're in your
single
cooldown
cast,
window, it's
one
like
single
every
cast
global,
of like, okay, I'll use my shaman. One single cast of Primordial Wave can hit for 500k, right?
Maybe.
If I don't get that I'm going to use it obviously next, but like if I don't get that one extra chance to hit something before it dies multiple times throughout a fight sometimes.
Frank, I'm totally with you because like in my cooldown window, that 20 seconds, I have very specific things I need to be doing.
Absolutely.
Like, and
What
if I do
about-
something different, it fucks everything up. So
No, Technique. No, we don't
What
agree.
about they make it so that when you get that type of affix done, you get a little buff for a few seconds to kind of
that's
make
what
you
Frank
want to do the
said.
affix?
What the fuck? Is he listening?
No.
Shut up, Technique. He thinks he's so funny.
I found our
Alright, we
YouTube
all
short
agree.
clip. Christ. Okay. I had a thought, lost it completely because Technique. Christ. I was gonna say, imagine if the four of us were sitting in the boardroom with all the developers as they like 10 steps ahead of us and did like how do they design
No,
this? And
dude,
we're like,
we
hey,
are-
man, let me tell you about what our idea is. Bring it.
We
Yeah.
are easily 10 steps ahead of them, without doubt. These guys
Without
have
doubt.
no.
They're out of
Without
touch. We're in touch.
Okay. Today with the beta build, there was a release of all the tier set bonuses. I
Frank,
know.
there's a lot of news.
Well, here's the thing. We'll get. Oh, don't worry. I think we'll be okay on time. We're not going to read through all of them, but I do want to take a second as I scroll through this very slowly.
Oh, the tier sets are horrible.
I know.
There-
I
I
see
would
that
even
armor.
show the picture.
the tier set
Just reminds
bonuses
me.
are arguably here. Scrap. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and show yours. Right. So let's look at
Yeah, show me mine
survivals.
because these don't mean anything to me.
And when I read survivals, I was like,
Okay,
okay,
stop.
this actually isn't that bad.
Stop.
Scrap.
Okay.
It's right
I
there.
couldn't. You're going too fast.
I was gonna make you read it moving. So here's survivals.
Let me
I'll
see
read
the
it out loud
survival
for
thing.
you. Wildfire bomb damage increased by 5%.
I
And
can
then
read it. I can
Mongoose
read
/ Raptor
it.
strike deals 10% increased damage to targets affected by
fine.
wildfire.
It's boring, but it's
So,
fine.
Blizzard put up a blue post saying that they're not intentionally boring, but they're not really worried about how exciting these are for season 1. They did the exact same thing for Dragonflight season 1 because of the talent tree rework. I'm honestly okay with this, right? Because we're gonna have enough time figuring out our hero talents now.
Yeah.
And then from there, it'll allow them to cook for a little bit on like how do they really want us to interact with their hero talents when it comes to tier sets going forward.
Yeah.
But there's a huge outcry from everyone saying these are all dog shit. And it's like, guys, like we got tier sets back. Please don't make them take them away again.
No, here's what I think is that if they're gonna do this anytime, it's season 1 because everything's gonna feel new anyway. Our rotations are gonna be totally different than they are right now.
Not totally,
because
but
we're reworking with new abilities, new things, new stuff. So this is gonna add to that.
Go to Warrior.
Problem.
Can you no? Can you zoom in on where it says Arcane? Oh. Not Arcane.
Those devs, they're so
Damn.
far 10 steps behind.
All right, so
it does say Arcane.
go down to Warrior when you get a chance for sure.
Yeah,
'cause
go
I
when you
haven't
get a
looked at this
chance.
yet. You know, if you can find the W's that are probably at the bottom.
There, I'm just scrolling through so everyone can quickly.
Yeah, as long
You
as
on
this
a
isn't a
pause on
fucking
there.
Mac or something? Scroll for God's sake.
I feel like
Alright,
as long
let's
as this is not a precedent for the
No, it's definitely
entire
not.
expansion.
No, they made the
well,
same
you
exact
can't
change.
say it's. Hold on, you can't say it's definitely not. We
No,
haven't
they
seen.
made a
season 4,
post saying this
season
is our intention for season 1.
3.
We
They're
will-
always gonna. When people are upset, they're always gonna say what people want to hear. I think it's fine for season 1. Go on, Technique. Tell me about Warrior.
They did it for Dragonflight. They've proven that this is their intention.
I'm reading the
All right,
Fury.
I'm going to read it
changes.
out loud then. Okay. When
Yeah.
your shield slam cooldown is reset by Strategist, you gain Expert Strategist, increasing your damage of shield slam by 5%, reducing all damage taken by 3%. Shield slam critical strikes increase the damage dealt by Thunderclap and Revenge by 10% for 8 seconds.
I would have preferred a set. So the set is technically literally different than what we've done this season and season 3 because it didn't change. But it won't change our playstyle. The playstyle will still be smash, shield slam all the time. And
Yeah,
Thunderclap.
I think that's their intention, not to change the rotation.
I'm
just yet.
looking at the Fury one, and that will
Hold
change
on.
playstyle.
Why would
I'm
that
just
not
looking
be
at
the
it.
intention? Wouldn't the intention be to be like, oh, let's do something different? That's
They
what my
have
intention
something
would
different.
be.
Hero talents are the different.
Okay.
Why
Don't
would
tell me,
they're iterating?
I had the wrong answer. I have a different answer, and I don't think it's different enough.
Technique, are you listening to us today?
Who are you? Who are you?
Listen to him.
I'm gonna repeat myself. In Dragonflight in season 1, when the talent trees were revamped, they said they're not going to do any rotation changes in the tier sets because we have a new talent tree. That in and of itself is going to be such a drastic change. They don't want to also implement a new change into the rotations that may not be in there for season 2. So when these came out, they said the exact same thing. We have hero talents. They may change the rotation as you play. And so they don't want to change the rotation in season 1 because we have enough change. Let us work through that. And then season 2, season 3, etc. will be where they test.
This is a really polite way of saying, please excuse us for not doing enough work for the next expansion that you're going to
I can't quite agree with you there. What I'm flabbergasted is that some numbnuts picked the season 1 talents for Dragonflight to be in season 4. Like, they're boring and shitty.
I was like, wait, what are you talking about? But now you're getting mad at the survival community.
Yeah, I'm getting mad at the survival community again. But I'm just saying, they're not fun. They're
Shawnee,
not fun, that's fine.
Let's look at Rogue. You know Rogue better than I do, so you can tell us if it's good or bad.
I don't think they're horrible. I think they're like, I was just looking at the other ones, and they all seem to be
Outlaw,
very,
right?
Yeah, they all seem to be very. I looked at Outlaw and Sub and Ret, and they're just like, we're adding damage to what you're already doing.
I think this Outlaw one is a good example of where it's like, okay, this is enough of a difference where I'm going to be at least tracking something. So, for example, Ethereal Rampage additionally increases the damage over your next between the eyes by 6%, stacking 3 times. That idea of the stacking is like, okay, well, there's enough in there that I'm going to like want to keep an eye on that. That makes me think through this tier set to the degree. Like that,
the Fury
cool
one
with.
had something similar.
Right.
When I was just looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think what I saw for Ret too was like Wake of Ashes increases your damage for like 10% for the next 6 seconds. Or
you mean this
something.
beautiful Paladin tier set right there?
Oh
Yeah.
God! Get it off
10% for 8 seconds after you use Wake of Ashes.
Yeah, and I mean, but that one's a little like because you're not, you're just going to continue doing the same thing you would do.
Yeah, no, I just in general, I mean, most of them seem to be like.
Okay. All right, let's talk on this just really quickly because they're saying they want Paladin or tanks to worry about tanking and not about doing damage. And then they release this Paladin 4 set. Casting a Holy Power ability increases the damage and healing you deal during your next Avenging Wrath by 0.5%. This affects stats. So effectively, I'm going to be doing more damage. And it's like, come on. Like for me, if I were to build this one, I'd say you maybe keep the damage and healing part of it, but like you also will reduce your damage by 0.5% for each one you spend.
Yeah, to give you damage.
And you're now rushing to try to build as many whole builders before your next Avenger Wrath so you can get a 10% damage reduction buff or something,
Yeah.
Like that's what I would do, even if it's not 0.5, let's say it's 0.2 or whatever. Like that's what I would do because I'm a tank. I want to focus on that. And then they go and release the Trinket thing.
Must be the same. The teams aren't working on it.
No, I can
definitely
believe that the teams aren't talking to each other. That's for sure.
Yeah,
but that's feedback we can give in the forums.
Let's use the 2-piece and 4-piece to make sure paladins do more damage, but then nerf their trinkets for sure.
Yeah.
What I just said, yes.
That's what we just said.
right
I was
there with
summarizing it in my words.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Right, I agree. It's kind of a dumbass, like, yeah.
But do you guys care so much? I mean, yes or no? Is it a big deal that they're vanilla tier sets?
I said my piece. I think it's fine. My rotation's going to change because of the hero trees anyway. So I'd rather not have to throw something else into. I mean, I don't care.
With scrap.
Yeah.
Okay. Technique.
Oh, what was the question? No, man. I feel like I feel like I would be.
Are you okay with it being vanilla?
I would be happier with a little more change, but someone raised a good question. I may have mentioned this on another episode with us, but someone raised a good question while they were watching Maximum Play on the alpha.
Mm-hmm.
They said this seems a lot like Dragonflight 2.0. And
like the entire expansion, or just the?
Well, just nothing's changed. I mean, you have like another quest to do. It seems like another campaign, and that's about it. Is basically what it felt like. And to me, that's not enough change. Now, I will cut them some slack because we're hoping that this is 3 expansions we're leading into, not just this, this one. So, I mean, we'll see how it plays out, man. But I still would have liked a little bit more change, and it's all kind of weighing on the hero talents and how much
Yeah,
that
cool they
actually
are.
impacts the
but
play.
the talent tree revamp was all weighing on the talent trees, and those worked out really well.
No, Dragonflight wasn't weighing on the talent tree revamp. It was the Dragonfly, the aesthetic, the story, all the dragons
Okay,
coming back. But
Dragonflight
War
I'll
Within
give you,
has
but-
nothing to stand on except the hero trees. That's the only thing about it, you know?
I swear to God, you guys sometimes. Okay.
I'm just tough to please,
just
man.
being
It has
real,
nothing
dude.
to stand on except for the first of the trilogy of what is effectively the end of the current WoW as we know it.
Okay,
what
so
are you, a PR
hopes and
person?
dreams, but nothing that's actually
Dragons
happening
come
this
home.
time.
So exciting.
Which
We're
is the
about
same thing
to
I just
face-
said, Frank. What do you do to repeat what I'm saying? What do you do?
No, that's not what you said. You said the opposite. You said it's not
No.
enough.
I said, yeah, this
Not enough.
patch isn't enough, except that it is the first of 3 expansions.
No, I
That's
get
what I
that
said.
part. But what I'm now leaning into Scrap's part of this is that, well, the Dragonflight had the story. I'll give you Dragon Riding. Dragon Riding was a really good addition, right? But I wouldn't have not played it or played it because of Dragon Riding. It was just like, woo, this is a bonus, right? For me, okay, we're not going down this rabbit hole. I just think it's insane how you guys will sit there and say that there's nothing riding except for hero talents as Dalaran is destroyed and we're watching the most amazing Hollow Fall zone ever made and whatever. All right.
We'll see.
We'll move on to our final topic with a subtopic included it. So there was a new Warcraft short story, The Goblin Way. Long story short, Monty Goslow, who is now the trade prince of the goblins, I believe. I'm not big on the goblin lore. Effectively is just like, hey, why are we so terrible to all our workers and just, greedy little shits? Why don't we actually not do that anymore? That's my understanding of the story. I didn't read it all fully. I wasn't enthralled with it as much as the Anduin story was. But that's not my concern. My concern is, one, why are they introducing a goblin story point right now? Like when they did BFA, we had stories that were very heavily focused on effectively what we saw in the cinematics. And then we had an Ashzara story. And that was like, okay, well, what does she have to do with BFA? Which obviously was foreshadowing for what would come. I think this is the same case right here. Okay, we have a goblin story. Are we foreshadowing? And that is backed up with the evidence of an item that was put into, or an icon, I should say, that was put into the beta or alpha a week or two ago, which has Goblin Raid. Now, they've made mistakes like this before. They made the same mistake with the Zaralik Caverns and telling us there was an underground raid. And they also did the same thing with the Emerald Dream. So it is almost certain that in 11.1, we're going to have a Goblin Raid. Okay, so that's
Right.
the subtopic there. It's like, okay, why, now granted, I think a lot of people would love to see the Undermine. If it's the Undermine raid, that sounds exciting and lore
That's
rich.
exciting.
But the bigger topic I want to talk about here is, and part of the criticism for Dragonflight is, you said it yourself, Scrap, like the dragons were coming home was a big selling point to you on Dragonflight. Did you at all care about the left turn we took in season 2? When it came to Sarkareth and going into the Zaralik Caverns and feeling like it was disconnected from what we'd been working on, only to return back to it, even though Farak was still part of the theme in season 3?
I felt like season 3 felt more disconnected to me because season 2 made sense. It's like, because if you're doing like the Black Dragon storyline, like kind of the Black Dragon succession is a big part of the leveling story. And obviously Neltharion not being there, there not being an aspect is like, it's like a big elephant in the room. So that was mostly a story was covering like, well, what about Neltharion? Like, and what about the Drakthir? Like that was Neltharion's project. So it was kind of tying up the Drakthir story. So I felt like it tied in really well. The Emerald Dream story, I'm still not exactly clear how it tied into everything, but I may have not been paying as much attention as I should have. I don't know. I think season 3 is less connected for me, but it's maybe because I checked out after Zaralik Cavern.
I don't understand you. Okay. So the blue Dragonflight, the bronze Dragonflight, they get either, Mega Dungeon in fairness to the bronze, but like the blue Dragonflight get a quest, right? A quest that wasn't even required to do to wrap up their stories.
It was long and good though.
But
I like the
blue
one.
Okay, fair enough, right? But that's how they did their story. The black Dragonflight get an entire raid with Sarkareth as the end boss, and raise your hand if you knew who Sarkareth was before we even heard about this patch.
I mean, technically I did because I did the Drakthir story, but I kind of didn't. I felt like he was an unimpressive last boss of that area. I
But
think like having a Neltharion Shade would have been way cooler as the last boss, but
well,
you know,
you
we
could
had
argue
him
he
as the
technically was as
penultimate
the
boss.
second last, yeah.
No, yeah, it has a penultimate boss, but I probably would have flipped them because then you could have had Deathwing come in and be another big dragon for us to fight.
And
or something.
then
Shade
you
of Deathwing.
lose sight of that story when they go to the Green Dragon flight, who were
Yeah, I lost it.
not only a huge process of this expansion because we did in our leveling a lot of Green Dragon flight quests, but also a big part of the Shadowlands story with the death of Ysera.
That's why I checked out. A Green Dragonflight's a snore to me. Night Elf shit, so boring.
You absolutely blow me away. Okay, I'm
there
moving
was like
on
a
to
big
Shawnee,
tree or something, dog.
stop.
I don't know.
I'm gonna mute you in a second.
Okay,
Shawnee,
go for it.
Do you believe?
Asked me.
I did, but I regret it. Shawnee, do you believe that taking that detour in season 2 or the second patch of the expansion was moving from an A plot down to a B plot?
Yeah. Just like if I was to explain it like, hey, we're on the surface, we're doing all this dragon stuff, and then we're gonna go below the surface, and there's no real dragony feel to it. I'm like, oh,
Well,
right.
Farok was there, but yeah.
But that's
But
why
yeah,
they were making the Draktheirs.
Yeah, I just didn't really. It wasn't. I don't know. I didn't care about it.
Okay, I'll frame the question this way. We talked at length about the leveling and how we'd have this like maybe overarching theme of every expansion in a set of quests to kind of move everyone through it quickly, right?
I would take season 2 out.
Yeah, like would you put it in at all?
No, I wouldn't. That's me personally.
The only thing that moved the A plot along, which is the Incarnates and the Razageth and the Eridicron and all them, was that Farok became Shadow Flamed infused, which could have happened with or without
But you weren't
any of the
invested
things in the
the
raid.
Black Dragonflight succession.
I was, but I didn't want an entire raid devoted. And again, Neltharion. Who didn't see that Neltharion was going to try to corrupt the two of them? Who didn't see that it was an old god that was somehow influenced? Like that beat has been played again.
The old god shit was. Oh, I'm kind of over it.
Like, and even then, I can't remember. I don't think that because Eridicron, they, like in the Dawn of the Infinite, they played into Zaltath pretty heavily, or not heavily, but like very subtly. But they didn't even play into Zaltath really at all, and they had all this really cool looking shit in the last set of that dungeon. Like the technique you said the other day. Remember that mural they had for Deathwing sitting in the room on the wall that like was him sitting on top of the globe?
Yeah.
Mural, sorry.
Yeah.
Like they had all this cool stuff and it wasn't even really put into play. It was just more Deathwing. And I love Deathwing stories, but I didn't feel like this was any use to me. I say all this because this is my concern. We have this huge overarching story. I don't mind taking detours, but if an entire season is dedicated to a detour from the A plot, what on earth are the like what could they do to make the Goblin raid relevant to what Zaltath is trying to do?
I mean, maybe it's deep underground and they
it is deep
ran
underground.
into some old god stuff. Like, it's pretty easy.
Okay.
Like, that's where people always find old god stuff is they dig too deep. That's happens over and over again. So that makes sense to me.
Technique, what do you think, man? What B plot versus A plot? Like, I just don't get it.
No, man, I like, you know, when everything is kind of pointing back to the A plot. Personally, that's me. You don't need a B plot. Fuck all that, man.
What about Ulduar in the Lich King expansion?
That's kind of tough, man, because
I like that B plot.
As if it's good.
I'm not the person to talk to you about like lore. Okay, that's not where I play the game. Like I don't read any of my quests. I don't listen to any of that. I skip every cinematic. I don't care.
Weren't you the one that told me you wanted to have voice acting AI tell me to do all the quests so that I get more invested in it?
Yeah, because because I can zip through the quest, close it, and continue to listen to the NPC as I run away and go on to do the quest. Yeah,
they do that now, but it's not AI.
No. He had an add-on. He had an add-on to it.
Oh,
it was called like voice over or some shit.
Oh, it reads the quest to you
for classic hardcore. Yeah, it reads it out to you in a voice that matches the NPC's persona, right?
Technique, I love that. I would totally download that.
He told you about
I know.
I tried to bait you into it.
With me when you tell me about stuff.
So you like open the quest and it will just play that audio even if you close the dialogue window. So you can like grab the quest, get the thing, and start doing it as you're listening to this person tell you what to do.
Very clever.
For the most part, like the voices were believable. I mean, the dwarves had their little like dwarven accent and the Tauren. Anyway, they all sounded pretty good. But yeah, there were some drawbacks because like sometimes the audio would overlap other things.
Yeah, except
Anyway.
3 quests at a time.
Yeah. Because that's how that actually happens. Yes. Anyway, to answer your question, I loved the Ulduar dungeon. Unless I'm wrong, it was the first to introduce like hard mode type content.
Yeah.
Unless that was
leave that out
Zulamon.
Yeah.
First, and I don't remember which one was first. I think Ulduar probably.
This was like
first.
the official hard mode.
Yeah.
But not relevant to the B-plot, A-plot story.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I do kind of think that everything should kind of point back to the A-plot, and if you can make it do that, great. But
I think go on, Scrap.
Oh, I would say I'm trying to think back of like plot lines that I liked in each expansion, and I think the best story moments often happen in the B plot. Like I'm trying to think about Shadowlands, man. Like with the A plot being like Sylvanas and the jailer.
Mm-hmm.
That shit sucks. And then the B plot being like stuff that was happening in like Rivendreth and like
no, those were like B, C, D, E, F.
Yeah, but those were way better than the A plot, man. Like, think about it.
I think when done like that,
Nathris is so much cooler than the jailer.
The Nathris was, yes, but the Nathris was driving the A plot.
He was a part of the A plot, but he was Rivendreth, I would say, was pretty big B plot.
What? No, it was phase 1 of the plot. It was like we're gonna summon or siphon all this anima to the jailer.
I mean, if you're thinking like everything, you could say like the Black Dragon flight was part of the A plot because it was essentially the A plot. Like I'm thinking like I mean you could the B plots are branching off of the A plot, right? But like
no, not always.
Well, I think in most cases,
Ulduar didn't have anything to really do with Lich King.
In the case of Shadowlands, like the A plot was so underwhelming that all the B plots were the A plot.
Let's leave Shadowlands out of the discussion.
I mean, I'm even thinking about Dragonflight, where you mentioned the blue Dragonflight quests with Calic Ghosts. Like that's probably my favorite quest line in Dragonflight, where you get to go all over the world and recruit all the blue dragons that are spread all over the world.
Yeah, but that's just because you're a simp for him.
I am, but I also like the story of like, oh, the blue dragonflight is super fractured and somebody has to bring them together and he's looking for somebody to bring them together and then you realize he is the one that brings them together. It was like a good little story. And not to get totally off track, but like one of my favorite storylines of all time in Cataclysm is where Thrall's lady, I don't remember what the fuck her name is trying to like get him back in the game, and you have to like go and encounter his like fight his fury and his desire and stuff, and it's this involved quest. It has a lot of great story moments and stuff, and you could miss it. It's not on the main train track, it's off to the side. So
look, I want to be clear, I'm not arguing that there shouldn't be B plots.
No, but what I'm saying is that like, oh, like I'm worried about like this B plot taking center stage.
If there was a raid to get Thrall back, I think that would be a little overkill, don't you?
I love Thrall, so no. I'm a Thrall soon.
You're the most stubborn person I've ever met.
I know I'm stubborn, but I'm just saying.
Shawnee, just
the words goblin raid should not make you afraid, because goblins are cool. I'm sure they'll tie it in.
B plots shouldn't have raids. That's my referee decision.
Eat an Ulduar, Shawnee?
Yep. I'll stick to, if we're gonna go with the overall thing, B plots shouldn't have a raid.
Yeah, I think the only reason Ulduar got away with it was because it was an old god. Like a direct old god, you know? So they had like a lot of lore built in that direction.
I mean, think about like... Go ahead.
If you're telling me a movie's 2 hours, and like 45 minutes of that movie is going to be like subplot that doesn't affect the actual overall of the movie, I'm like, that is 45 minutes of... could have been down to 10. So that's how I feel.
It's like watching Avengers and then like Hawkeye gets his own 45-minute section to tell us what happens with him and his family. It's like, no, I just need 10 seconds to see off to the side. Like, they're fine. Like, it's good.
I like B plot, but I don't think it needs a raid.
I think just the phrase goblin raid making you think, oh god, the B plot. Like it might be the A plot, Frank. You're gonna have to accept
by
that.
all means. I obviously could be eating my words on that, but okay.
Yeah.
If it's part of the A plot, if they do a really cool thing with it, I'm all for it. But I read this short story. I didn't read it. I read about this short story. I immediately feel Ashara vibes, which, I mean, Ashara.
Everybody loves Ashara.
No, I know, but like even that felt like a hardcore B plot. Like,
It
we're
did.
at war, we're at war, we're at war. What the fuck, Ashara? It's like, what?
I know, but that's where they do their best work, dude. In the
Oh,
B
yeah,
plot,
okay.
that's where they do their best work,
Alright.
dude. The best plot in BFA was the fucking Zandalari plot, where you're having to get all the Loas together. And
Yeah,
that,
but I don't want to raid on it. All right, anyways.
Fuck you. They're literally the first raid of BFA is literally that. It's the B plot raid.
And to me, as long as
Oh,
that
dear.
stuff points back to the A plot, you're good. That's my opinion on it.
Well,
like somehow wrap that shit.
as
Don't
long-
just stop
yeah.
at like when you're done with that zone or whatever. Make it make sense to the big guy
Yeah, as long as it's good. I'm saying as long as it's good.
or the big enemy, I should say. He's not necessarily a guy.
Well,
To me, it's more important if it's good than if it's A plot.
I want to wrap this up because I want to get to beta. Actually, I have to run you through a dungeon, don't I? So we are going to forego the question of the week this week. I had a really good one, Shawnee. I'm sorry, but I make a promise to you. I'll make a promise to you. I'll make a promise to you. We will dedicate an episode to this question when we come back.
I don't think we. I don't know.
I think we will. I think we could. I think we could really cook on
I
it.
can
I'm
talk
not gonna
about
spoil
anything
it.
for
yeah,
2
you
hours.
definitely could. I'm not gonna spoil the question, so we'll hold it for its own.
Wait, you should spoil the question to build excitement.
Is in relation to player housing. We'll just say that. Okay.
That's good enough.
All right. So I'll say, I got to say thank you. There's been a lot of people who have been joining our Discord through mythicdungeonleague.com. You can go there and click the little chain link up there in the corner. That have come in and played with us a lot. A lot of them are going to help me on the beta with some of the Keystone Kindergarten stuff. You can go to our website and see our Keystone Kindergartens from season 2. I hope to make a whole bunch of them for War Within. If you want to help out with that, I would always love it. And then of course you can see our Twitch and our all that Twitter stuff and all that fun stuff at /MDL Frank. So please continue to do that. We really do appreciate y'all. We're loving the community. We're loving everyone that's coming on board. Scrap found a new survival hunter friend in Horse Banana. And,
one of 5 of us.
And with that being said, again, 2 weeks off. It's almost summer. We're gonna get our summer trips in now and not have to worry about it later, right, y'all?
Yep.
Once we get back,
later.
Once we get back, we just nose to the grindstone and we just burn out some podcasts.
Leo guest incoming.
Yeah, we definitely have to. I can't wait. Maybe we get some other guests. Maybe we get Max to come in here. And,
hey, my buddy Mason.
Leo.
It'd be terrible to time it because he's in Japan, but he'd like to actually be a guest as well.
Well, he wants to be a guest panelist, though, right? Yeah. Like we're interviewing him and be like, "Hey, when did you last play WoW? 14 years ago."
Yeah, but dude, I mean, that's it's a perspective that's interesting to hear, I think.
Yeah. Well, that said, everyone have a wonderful 2 weeks. We will see you all very soon. And I'm Frank. That's Technique. That's Scrapclaw. That's Shawnee. We appreciate y'all listening. We'll see y'all very soon. Take care.